The room was spinning again. I gripped the kitchen counter, trying to steady myself as black spots danced in my vision. My sister Victoria stood over me, her perfectly manicured hands on her hips. "Get up, Maya. This is exactly why you need my help. You can't even handle a simple cleanse without being dramatic." I'm Maya, 17, and for the past 3 months I've been living under Victoria's wellness program. My 24-year-old sister, a self-proclaimed nutrition expert with an Instagram following, had convinced our parents that my weight issue needed her intervention. "Mom," Victoria called out, Maya's pulling her fainting act again. Mom walked in, barely glancing at me slumped against the counter. "Honey, you need to commit to your sister's program. She's trying to help you." The irony was, I'd never been overweight. At 5'6" and 130 pounds, I was perfectly healthy. But Victoria had always been obsessed with appearance, and when she moved back home after her divorce, she'd made me her new project. "Look at this." Victoria grabbed my food diary, waving it in Mom's face. "She ate a whole apple yesterday. That's pure sugar. No wonder she's not seeing results." My diet consisted of Victoria's special smoothies 3 times a day, a blend she prepared herself and monitored me drinking. Any other food was logged and scrutinized. Even water had to be approved. "I just need real food," I whispered, my voice shaking. "Please." "Real food is what made you like this," Victoria snapped, pinching my arm. "My smoothies have everything you need. You're just not trying hard enough." Dad walked in, his attention fixed on his phone. "Is she complaining again?" As usual, Victoria sighed dramatically. "Maybe we should cancel her school trip next month. She clearly isn't committed enough to earn it." That school trip, a week-long science program I'd earned a scholarship for, was my only hope of escape. I forced myself to stand, despite the dizziness. "I'll do better," I promised, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. Victoria smiled her Instagram-perfect smile. "Good. Now, time for your afternoon cleanse." The greenish-brown liquid she handed me smelled strange, different from usual. But under their watchful eyes, I had no choice but to drink it. Within an hour, I was violently ill. My stomach cramped so badly I could barely walk. When I tried to call my best friend Anna from the bathroom, Victoria caught me and took my phone. "No one needs to know about your detox symptoms," she said sweetly. "It's just weakness leaving the body." That night, I heard Victoria and my parents talking downstairs. "She's always been attention-seeking," Mom said. "Remember how she tried to overshadow your wedding by getting that academic award?" "The program is working," Victoria insisted. "She's down 10 pounds this month alone. Trust my process." I looked at myself in the mirror, seeing the dark circles under my eyes, my dull hair, the way my clothes hung loose. This wasn't health. This wasn't even about weight anymore. But every time I tried to speak up, they dismissed me as dramatic. The next morning at school, I couldn't focus. The numbers on my math test blurred together. During PE, my legs gave out completely. "Maya," Anna caught me before I hit the ground. "That's it. I'm getting the nurse." "No, please," I begged, but it was too late. Nurse Jenkins took one look at me and called an ambulance. By the time Victoria and my parents arrived at the hospital, Dr. Matthews had already ordered comprehensive blood work. "This is ridiculous," Victoria complained. "She's just dehydrated from not following my hydration schedule properly." Dr. Matthews, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, ignored her. "Maya's blood work shows severe malnutrition, electrolyte imbalances," and she paused, looking directly at Victoria. "Traces of substances that shouldn't be in her system." The room went quiet. "What substances?" Dad finally asked. "Ipecac, laxatives, and concerning levels of various supplements," Dr. Matthews replied coldly, "all of which could have caused organ failure if untreated." Victoria's perfect mask cracked slightly. "Those are natural cleanses. I use them in all my wellness programs." "Your unlicensed, dangerous programs?" Dr. Matthews asked. "The ones you sell to your social media followers?" My parents started to defend Victoria, their usual response, but Dr. Matthews held up her hand. "I've contacted the appropriate authorities. Maya will be admitted for treatment and observation." "And Victoria?" She turned to my sister, whose face had lost all color. "I suggest you contact a lawyer." As they hooked me up to IVs and monitoring equipment, I caught a glimpse of Anna in the hallway, talking to what looked like police officers. She'd been trying to warn me for months that something was wrong. I should have listened sooner. Dr. Matthews sat beside my bed after my family was escorted out. Your friend Anna showed us your journal, the one you kept hidden under your mattress. You documented everything, didn't you? I nodded weakly. That was very smart, she said gently. Now let's talk about getting you real help. As night fell over the hospital, I lay in the quiet room, watching actual nutrients flow into my veins. For the first time in months, no one was counting my calories or monitoring my water intake. No one was calling me dramatic or weak. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew one thing for certain. Victoria's diet tips had nearly killed me, and finally someone was going to do something about it. The question was, how much damage had she already done to others? The hospital room became my safe haven for the next week. Under Dr. Matthews' care, my body slowly began to recover. Each day brought new revelations about the extent of Victoria's wellness program. Your sister's smoothies contained a dangerous cocktail of unregulated supplements, Dr. Matthews explained during morning rounds. Combined with severe caloric restriction and dehydration, it's a miracle you didn't suffer organ failure. Detective Laura Chen, who specialized in medical abuse cases, visited daily. She scrolled through Victoria's Instagram account, documenting every success story. Young girls who'd lost dramatic amounts of weight through her program. We've identified 23 other victims so far, Detective Chen told me. Some as young as 14. Your detailed journal and blood work results gave us the evidence we needed to build a case. My parents weren't allowed to visit without supervision. During their first monitored visit, they oscillated between anger and denial. We thought she was helping you, Mom insisted, tears streaming down her face. Her program has thousands of followers. That doesn't make it right, my new therapist, Dr. Ross, interjected. Maya nearly died from malnutrition and poisoning. Dad stared at the floor. The warning signs were there, weren't they? We just didn't want to see them. The truth was harder for them to swallow than any of Victoria's smoothies had been for me. Their golden child, their successful influencer daughter, was facing criminal charges for endangering multiple minors. Anna visited every day after school, bringing my assignments and real friendship, something I'd been starved for as much as food. She sat with me during meals, helping me rebuild a healthy relationship with eating. Remember in 7th grade, she said one afternoon, when Victoria convinced your parents you were too fat to be in my ballet recital photos. I nodded, pushing my hospital lunch around. She said I'd ruin the aesthetics. You were the best dancer in our class, Anna replied firmly. She couldn't stand that you were better at something than she was. The investigation revealed a pattern stretching back years. Victoria had been experimenting with dangerous diet techniques long before her social media fame, using me as her first test subject. One afternoon, Detective Chen brought in Victoria's laptop. We found files dating back to when you were 12, she said gently. She documented everything. How much she restricted your food, what supplements she slipped into your meals, even your failure to maintain the weight loss. I remembered those years, constantly feeling sick, being pulled from sports teams, losing roles in school plays. Victoria had convinced everyone it was because I was too heavy, when in reality, I was being systematically weakened. The real shock came when they found her private message records. Victoria had been selling her special smoothie formula to followers, charging hundreds of dollars for a program she knew was dangerous. Your sister's facing multiple charges, Detective Chen explained. Medical endangerment, practicing without a license, distributing dangerous substances to minors. Her followers' medical records show patterns similar to yours. My parents, faced with mounting evidence, finally broke down during a therapy session. We gave her complete control, Mom sobbed. We trusted her because she was successful, because people admired her. We failed you, Maya. Dr. Matthews started me on a careful refeeding program. Each successful meal felt like a victory. My hair began to shine again, my mind cleared, and my strength slowly returned. 2 weeks after my collapse, I was strong enough to give my official statement. Victoria had been arrested, her social media empire crumbling as victims came forward. She was so convinced she was helping people, I told Detective Chen. She really believed that nearly killing us was making us better. The hardest part was seeing the other victims, girls who trusted my sister's perfect Instagram presence, who believed her promises of transformation. Some had suffered permanent damage to their organs. Others like me were lucky enough to be found in time. As I prepared to leave the hospital, Dr. Matthews sat down for a final chat. Your recovery isn't just physical, she said. It's going to take time to heal from the psychological abuse. But you've already shown incredible strength. I was going to live with my Aunt Patricia while my parents completed their mandatory counseling and parenting classes. They'd lost custody temporarily, a wake-up call they desperately needed. The day I left the hospital, Anna helped me pack. She'd saved something special. Photos from that 7th grade ballet recital that Victoria had tried to exclude me from. Look how strong you were, Anna said, showing me a picture of myself in mid-leap. That strength is still there. She didn't destroy it. As we drove to Aunt Patricia's house, I thought about Victoria sitting in jail, her perfectly curated life shattered by the truth. I felt sorry for her, in a way. Her obsession with perfection had destroyed not only her life, but nearly ended mine and hurt countless others. My phone buzzed with a message from Detective Chin. Another victim came forward. You helped save her life by speaking up. Looking out the window, I realized that real strength isn't found in restrictive diets or social media approval. It's found in surviving, in speaking truth, in helping others escape the cage you've broken free from. And for the first time in years, I was hungry for life. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom, watching Victoria stand before the judge. Gone were her perfectly styled hair and carefully curated outfits. She looked smaller somehow, less like the towering figure who had controlled my life and more like a broken person who had lost her way. The evidence against her was overwhelming. 37 victims had come forward, their stories eerily similar to mine. Laptops full of detailed protocols showed how she'd systematically increased dangerous substances in her wellness formulas, documenting our declining health as progress. Your Honor, the prosecutor stated, Ms. Hunter didn't just endanger these young women's lives, she monetized their suffering. She sold her own sister's weight loss as a success story, knowing it was achieved through systematic poisoning. Victoria's lawyer tried to paint her as a misguided influencer caught up in toxic wellness culture. But the medical records, the bank transfers, the private messages telling girls to ignore their doctors, it all told a different story. When it was my turn to give my victim impact statement, I felt steady for the first time in years. My sister convinced me that my worth was measured in pounds lost, I said clearly. She taught me to distrust my body, my hunger, my own mind. But worse than what she did to me was watching her spread this poison to others, selling self-destruction as self-improvement. Victoria cried during my statement, but I couldn't tell if she was crying for me or for herself. Our parents sat in the gallery, finally seeing the full scope of what they'd enabled. The judge's sentence was decisive. 8 years in prison, permanent revocation of her social media accounts, and a lifetime ban on providing any form of health or nutrition advice. She would also have to pay for the medical treatment of all her victims. Your actions show a calculated pattern of abuse masked as care, the judge declared. You exploited vulnerable young women's insecurities for profit, knowing the damage you were causing. Outside the courthouse, I met some of the other survivors. Girls like Rachel, who'd lost her senior year to hospitalization, and Kimberly, whose kidney damage would require lifelong treatment. We formed a support group, turning Victoria's network of harm into a circle of healing. My own healing continued at Aunt Patricia's house. She'd helped me rediscover normal eating patterns, never commenting on portions or counting calories. Under her care, I'd returned to dance classes, my body growing stronger each week. My parents were working hard in therapy, learning to recognize the signs of abuse they'd missed. They attended support groups for parents of eating disorder survivors, finally understanding how their passive acceptance had enabled Victoria's control. We should have protected you, Mom said during a family therapy session. Instead, we handed you over to someone who hurt you systematically, all because we valued her success more than your health. Dad, who once spent family dinners staring at his phone while Victoria policed my food, now cooked weekly meals for us. I'm learning, he'd say, serving normal portions without commentary. We all are. Anna stood by me through everything, including my testimony at Victoria's trial. She helped me start a blog, not about diets or wellness, but about recovery, about finding strength in nourishment rather than restriction. One post about my experience went viral, but this time for the right reasons. My sister's wellness was warfare, became a rallying cry for others fighting toxic diet culture. Journalists contacted me to expose similar predatory programs hiding behind social media facades. Dr. Matthews invited me to speak to medical students about recognizing signs of medical abuse and eating disorders. Your story helps future doctors understand how abuse can wear a wellness mask, she explained. The week before college started, I've been accepted to study biochemistry, wanting to understand both the science of nutrition and the dangers of supplementation. I received a letter from Victoria. I still believe I was trying to help, she wrote. But I see now how sick I was, how I turned my own issues into a weapon. I'm getting help here, real help, not Instagram help. I shared the letter with my therapist, who helped me process my complicated feelings. You can acknowledge her pain without excusing her actions, she reminded me. Today, I'm preparing for my freshman year. My dorm room is decorated with photos, not carefully angled before and after shots, but real moments of joy. There's one of me and Anna at dance recital, both of us sweaty and laughing. Another shows a family dinner where everyone's actually eating, not just arranging food for photos. The mirror that once served as a battleground now reflects a survivor. My body is no longer a project to be fixed, but a story of resilience. Every meal is an act of rebellion against the lies I was fed, both literally and figuratively. Victoria's wellness empire has crumbled, but from its ashes, something authentic has grown. The girls she hurt have become advocates, turning their pain into protection for others. We've learned that true health isn't found in restricted calories or carefully filtered photos, but in nourishing our bodies and speaking our truth. Sometimes healing looks like gaining weight. Sometimes it looks like losing the people who poisoned you with love.